Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit.
Today, I'm taking a look at the newest Digimon card game from Bandai. If you're wondering why I'm saying newest, well, that's because there have been multiple Digimon card games. Originally coming around, of course, when Pokemon was about, it tried to rival it with a card game. I actually collected this one and had a lot of fun collecting it. I didn't really know the game that well and remember being a little confused about it. Apparently, other people were as well, because the game was quickly canceled not too long after its release. Now, Bandai didn't give up there, but they released multiple other different card games, and they all failed one way or another, maybe being too simple of a simple rock, paper, scissors, if I recall, and also just the power creep was crazy. But it seems they're hoping that this one will be the one that is able to stick around. Now, this one was released earlier in Japan a little while back, and it's been pretty popular there. We're playing a little bit catch up now, but let's see if this version of Digimon as a card game is what it will take to make it stay on the tabletop. The way the game plays is you start off with your deck and 5 security cards. These are sort of your life points. And the goal of the game is to remove all your opponent's security cards and then get one more unblocked attack on your opponent in order to win. You're also going to have this separate deck with a white back. This is your Digi-Eggs. They're your level 2 Digimon, pretty much your small ones that will help you level up, as I'll explain a little bit later. The biggest mechanic to keep track of, though, is the memory gauge. The way it works is when you play cards, you will actually move the tracker towards your opponent. The number of spaces equal to the cost of the card. Should it ever pass over 0, that's when your opponent's turn begins. This means turns aren't always the same structure of a main phase and an attack phase. It really is up to you in terms of how you spend cards, and obviously bigger cards are going to give your opponent more energy for them to do more stuff on their turn, so it's something to keep an eye out for. Now, like plenty of the other games, there's Digi-Evolution. It's a core mechanic of this series, but they really helped pare it down and simplify in this one. In the previous games, there was either very specific Digimon you need to Digivolve from, or no caring whatsoever. In this one, all you need to worry about is matching the color and being the level above the previous one. So level 2 evolves into a 3, 3 into a 4, so on and so forth. There are 6 colors for you to go with, and they have their own sort of plan strategies you'd expect in anything like this. Red is obviously very aggressive. You got blue, which is a bit more control-y. This sounds very familiar. Well, anyways, yellow is all about lowering your opponent's attack, possibly killing their creatures, and recovering some of your security if you get low. Black is all about defensiveness. Purple is all about graveyard manipulation and sacrificing your own things for advantages, and green is about suspending your opponent's Digimon while quickly leveling up yours. Another great thing about this is the Digivolving is actually rewarding. You see, if you look at this card, it has a cost up here, and that's to play it straight up from your hand, which I don't think any of the other card games I recall allowed you to do that. You had to Digivolve them. But if you Digivolve them, you pay them for this lower cost, which is very helpful. In particular, as I said, this game is all about not trying to give your opponent too much of that memory. Now, once you play the card, if it's Digivolved, you also get to draw a card, which replaces it from your hand. Essentially, now everyone has draw, regardless of what color you have, which is really nice because that's a core of almost any card game I could think of. Besides playing Digimon cards, there are also option cards, which are your one-time effect cards, as well as tamers. These are pretty much guys who stay out on the field and boost you or your Digimon in some way. Finally, the other thing you can do on your turn is attack. You are simply declaring an attacker, and you have 2 possible targets, your opponent or your suspended, aka tap, exhausted Digimon. If you attack their Digimon, or if they use a blocker to block your attacker, you will compare the numbers on the cards. Highest number is the winner. Obviously, there are ways to temporarily boost your attack or lower opponent's attack, so keep that in mind. If it's a tie, it takes out both Digimon. If you decide to go for the security and there's no blockers, you don't worry about the number there. All you do is flip over the security card and see what effect takes place. If it's a Digimon, they do a special little bow there where all they care about is numbers, not effects. And regardless of whether you win or lose, the security Digimon will die. However, if the security Digimon is stronger, it will take out yours. If it's an option or a tamer, you'll usually see this lock symbol, which means it triggers an effect that's usually stronger than the base one when it's revealed as a security card. You will continue this going back and forth with that memory gauge every time it swaps, making sure you don't give too much your opponent while trying to take advantage of what they give you to play your stronger cards. Once someone has all the security cards removed and gets that final direct attack in, that's when the game ends. These are the basic rules. Of course, there's extra cards because it's a trading card game, so you're going to see new abilities and different weird interactions. But you may recognize a bunch of these mechanics. In particular, if you've played either the Godzilla, Evangelion, and Naruto, I believe, were the copyrights have with the Chrono Clash system, it's pretty close. They have Guardians, at least in the Godzilla copy I have, which is similar to the shields that you or the securities you have to take out. They also have the memory gauge is the energy system there. But I feel the cards in this game compared to the Godzilla game, at least the one I have, which if I recall is pretty close to the other two, are much more friendly to, at least to me. They used a lot more symbols there, while this one is pretty straightforward and says, on your turn, do this. Or it will say, when this card is destroyed or trashed, do that. So I think it's a lot easier to go in without having to have a whole hieroglyph of symbols to understand how the game plays. And the Chrono system itself, I really love that back and forth when it comes to the energy or memory in this case. One, it's always available, meaning that you really can usually play whatever's in your hand. This seems to be you have what you need. It's up to you to decide how you spend it in order to whether it's worth it to give your opponent those extra resources or whether you do more of a back and forth, trying not to give them too much at a time. Digi-evolution is also a big component of, Digimon, and I really love what they've come up with. In some of the other games, I haven't played all of them, but I felt like the Digi-evolution was either really simple and it was just go to your rookie or AK in this level 3, 4, 5 without worrying about any reason whatsoever. So just play whatever's the best version of a 3 versus 4. Or it was really specific. You needed exactly either a Greymon or a Kabuterimon. If you did have those cards, then you couldn't use that. And so you had to be lucky if you drew those. This really focuses on those colors. So you really, all you need to worry about is, do I have a color of that type? I don't know how well the future sets in Japan are going right now, but I think it seems safe that you could at least go 2 colors in terms of evolving. But in the other ones, I'm not caring. It's been a while since I played the other Digimon card games, or at least read the rules. I don't think there's ever a way you could go straight into here's a champion, which is great because sometimes you don't draw those rookies. So maybe you just have to play that champion or level 5 card. Granted, you are going to probably spend a lot more of that memory in giving it to your opponent, but at least you have the option. You may have an uphill battle of a game, but you're going to be in the game. However, I think we need to address one of the biggest issues I think for a lot of people are going to see is that this is a TCG or CCG. It's going to be collectible, which means you can't just buy, for example, like I mentioned the previous Chrono Clash games, you can't just buy the box and you have all the mechanical unique pieces. You're going to have to buy packs and starter decks, though you can watch my opening of the 2 boxes I was able to get my hands on, as well as the starter decks. And I think the starter decks are fun. I wish they came in the other colors, but hopefully the next set, whatever they call it, will have those. And the boosters seemed rewarding. The boxes themselves are guaranteed a secret and alternate rare. Speaking of which, the art is beautiful on these cards. I'm so glad they didn't just copy and paste. But it's still a collectible card game. You still have to try to find those pieces. Hopefully, there will be a good, solid singles market. We don't know yet. This was a pre-release. The official release, I believe, is in January. So probably if you want to wait till then in order to make sure you get a closer to MSRP price. And hopefully by then we'll see the singles market and see how expensive it is. If it's not too harsh, then I think then this won't be nearly as bad of a deal. But if it costs as much as a regular board game to get a single copy of a card that you may need 4 copies of, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Not to mention, of course, Digimon, while I love it, if you weren't into that or you got into Pokemon instead, it's going to be hard to convince them, why should I play this one? Luckily, like I said, there are starter decks for you to go with, and there's a free app. You can actually look this up right now. It'll have a tutorial how to play, as well as for you to be able to play half decks of those starter decks. So you can actually see, like, if I only wanted to buy one, which one has the archetype I like, which is very nice in considering, well, it's free and it's on smart devices so anyone can access it. So you can actually check out this game right now and see for yourself if you enjoy it. Crits and misses for Digimon card game. Crits. The game mechanics are quite enjoyable and seem to be copied from the Chrono Clash system. They also seem to have streamlined it and removed some of the extra symbology in order to make it easier to understand. I want to focus this crit on the memory gauge in particular. Yes, it's technically related earlier with the Chrono Clash system, but this mechanic is so much fun. It is a dance going back and forth with your opponent, deciding how much energy you're going to give or take. And in particular, compared to other card games, it's nice to always have the energy or memory, whatever the mechanic is for your card game, in order to cast cards. Card design is beautiful. They are not copy and pasted, which they easily could have done with the stock files they have for all these creatures. And the promo arts or the rares with gold foils are also a fantastic touch. Misses. Let's not ignore the Elephantmon in the room. This is a CCG, meaning you're going to have to open packs and try to get the cards you need for the deck you want to build. This can be a little bit annoying, and depending on how well it is distributed, it could be very expensive. Not to mention that there are also promo packs with unique mechanical cards, and more often than not, that means these cards are going to be hard to find or hurt your wallet quite a bit. The theme is a tough sell. If you weren't already a fan of the Digimon franchise, I can understand you looking at this and wondering, what's the point of me playing when I don't really recognize any of these characters? I love the memory gauge system because it allows you to pretty much play cards whenever you want. However, that being said, this is still a CCG where you build the deck and you could draw all your high casting cards being forced to play one. That can really stink because unlike most turns when you might give 1 or 2 memory, giving them 4 or 5 or 6 can pretty much give your opponent a very good head start. Odds are, I feel like for the most part, a lot of people watching this are already convinced whether they would or would not buy into this. You know, if you're a fan of Digimon, you're probably excited to try this game out, and you should be. It's a lot of fun. If you're not a fan of Digimon or you don't like collectible card games, I can understand the fear of going into this, especially one that, let's be honest, is on its 5th try. This isn't something new like Transformers that also had a lot of, the Michael Bay movies. It has a much bigger, I think, in the general zeitgeist, at least here in America, compared to Digimon. Digimon has always been around, but I feel it's been a bit more niche personally. And that's going to make it very hard to convince either your friends or even your local game shop if you can. Well, right now we're all inside to visit. And it really can feel like it's just going to be another game that will come and be gone and lost to the winds of TCG time. And I have got no defense to that. That is a very likely outcome for almost any card game that isn't one of the big 3. But the question is, how is it as a game? As a game, I think it's pretty enjoyable. I like the Chrono Clash system, the memory gauge system. It's one of the reasons why I made it its own separate crit. And I just feel like compared to those games, though, which you can buy and just have that, which I won't lie is very nice, I find those cards a bit more confusing when these just straight up have a sentence. It's a lot easier for me to do that. It's going to also scratch that deck building itch pretty well. I'm already trying out, I'm thinking, it is 1 color deck, but I do want to try out some if I got more cards for a 2 color deck. There maybe you can do more with more advanced cards. I don't know. I only I've gotten these cards so far, and I've enjoyed playing it. When I had the whole day, we just played a whole bunch of matches with a friend of mine who's also been collecting the card game. We just kept swapping out different decks and having so much fun. And I'm hoping that they realize this and they try to push it through to be like, look, this is a great new card game, and like that app, really let people know that there is a free app for them to try that you can pretty much infinitely play these mini versions of the game with the half decks. I got a lot of experience through that, and you can try that out too to see if this mechanism and this game mechanic is something that you find enjoyable. In the end, though, this is a TCG, a CCG, and I'm going to keep swapping on those. It's going to be something you're taking a risk on. And right now, it isn't available, or it is, but it's going to be a bit higher prices. So not buy the app. The app is free. Download the app, try it out, Let me know what you think of the game mechanics, especially if you're not into Digimon. I'd love to see people who aren't into just the franchise enjoy the game, because that would actually be, I think, a sign that it is good. I won't lie, I have rose tinted glasses for any property I like, and I'm still crying over losing the Transformers card game. Let me know what you think about this card game, and please try the app out. If you think that this game is worthwhile to get into, do you think it's actually different enough and fun to try out? Or is it just not up your alley? You can let me know in those comments right down below. And until then, I'm Will, and this has been Roll for Crit. If you want to help out, you can check out our Patreon, or a simple click to like and subscribe can go a long way.
We really appreciate everything that you can do for us. We love you.